What is about the Parliament? See, legislature is referred as Parliament, and its Sansad we consist the President, Lok Sabha, and Rajya Sabha. President, Lok Sabha, and Rajya Sabha. It consists representative of states. Maximum strength is 250, and 238 is the state and UT, and 12 is the nominated by the president. Representative of the state are elected by the member of the state legislature and by the proportional representative system, single transferable vote. The membership of the state is based on the population, and Rajya Sabha is the permanent body, and dissolution 1/3 to the 2 years. The member are elected by the elected member of the state legislative assembly for the 6th year, and no seats reserved for the SC and tribes in Rajya Sabha. Okay, now Lok Sabha. So Lok Sabha is the popular house and lower house, has people based elected representation, and the constitution prescribe a membership not more than 530 members, not more than 20 members from UT, and 2 from the Anglo-Indian community. So Lok Sabha on the basis of population every census. The normal terms of Lok Sabha is 5 year, and it dissolved earlier by the president if may determine. 42 constitutional amendment was to extension of the Lok Sabha. 44 constitutional amendment says 5 year, and the original constitution advises. So 42 constitutional amendment was a 6 year, but now it's 40. Now it's 5 year. Okay. So we can say Article 352. It's a but Parliament cannot extend the normal life of Lok Sabha for more than 1 year in the Article 352, proclamation of the national emergency, and continue beyond a period of 6 months. It can be continued beyond a period of 6 months after the proclamation. So one may say that Indian legislature is a fine blend of British Parliament and American presidential system, because manifest both of British and American. President being the head of the state plays substantial role. The president is considered not to be the strong as that American system. President is not weak as British crown. So we can't say it is a rubber stamp, rather we can say power, he has the powers like a suspensive veto, pocket veto, and absolute veto. So Indian system is by and large similar to the American qualified veto, and however in American system the bill is sent with higher majority, not in the Indian system. The Indian lawmaking is also a mixture of British and American lawmaking. So doctrine of legislature competence, doctrine of basic structure, judicial review is given in Indian constitution. Okay, now role of union legislature. What are the role of union legislature? See, there are union legislature, and there is legislative, executive, and judiciary. So British parliamentary system, these organs are integrated, which is popularly referred Westminster system. But in Indian parliamentary system, it's Eastminster system, where we are imprint of British system also, and further the Indian legislature also has characteristics of American Congress. So in British system, the parliament is supreme. Thus, a law formed by the parliament can never be questioned. On the contrary, American follow doctrine of legislature of competence. So there is proper checks and balance. So Indian legislature can only work within the era provided by Indian constitution. It provides doctrine of judicial review. Judicial review, any law can be declared either at intra vires or ultra vires. Okay. So American system is different. Nevertheless, it differs from American system because doctrine of basic structure. So doctrine of basic structure is Article 368, providing add, modify, delete the constitutional including part 3rd, but it is bring such change which is like basic structure of constitution should not be destroyed. Keshwanand Bharti case 1973 talked about the doctrine of basic structure. The constitution reflects basic structure in certain expression, idea, value which is expressed through article and module. The American power is limited and not absolute. So doctrine of legislature competence, legislature has been defined as bounded. Any law relevant today may become irrelevant as it is dynamic. Okay, so Indian constitutional Article 368 provides for organic character of Indian constitution, and the legislature is given the power to revise, modify, and whatever we do. Okay, now administrative function of the constitution. See, administrative, like Article 368 power Keshwan and Bharti, we discussed before now, administrative function of the Union Legislature. This is like discussion, debate, question, motions, resolution committee, standing, departmentally related standing committee. So the control, monitor and direct government, PM and Council of Ministers remains in office till enjoy the majority of parliament. There have been many instances like because of loss in majority in the house. For instance, Janata Party government, Union Front government. Okay, so financial function of the Union Legislature are like budget and annual financial statement, estimated Article 112, rationalization of expenditure and the revenue. The government in modern time is an instrument on the behalf of people. Government was an end in itself. Okay, and the taxes are collected for the benefits of the people and decide how to collect, who will collect, and meanwhile there's a gap between ability and requirement of legislation. Okay, so on the other hand, the executive has ability but not the legitimacy to collect the taxes. Budget is rationalized process, and financial goals are defined in the Indian administrative system on who will earn, the purpose of earning, overall financial administration controlled by the legislation, pack estimate committee, post facto mechanism, audit reports and all that. So adjudication function of the Union Legislature are given like Indira Gandhi was a very important personality at the time. So, breach of privileges, legislature empowered to admonish, censor the individual, or send the imprisonment, expel in case of some cases. And every officer is removed from office by the president, but it is rationalized also. And national integration and consolidation is also given in Indian parliamentary system, like religious, ethnic diversity should be maintained, and Lok Sabha will be the centripetal force of the Indian democracy, and Rajya Sabha will be centrifugal force of the Indian democracy. So Union Legislature as a representative is the educative body also, because it ensures collection of the data information from the every possible manner, thereby ensuring representative and more educative. Now, position of the Rajya Sabha. See, Rajya Sabha has always been questioned whether Rajya Sabha is essentially the adjust the secondary chamber or elders. So, Rajya Sabha is considered the revisory chamber. Rajya Sabha is similar to the House of the Lords, and there are many cases where lower house or the popular house take initiative in the hurry, which result in dilution of very purpose of the institution. This upper house is considered to have a wisdom and also not constrained by popular politics. Okay, so upper house act as a dialect chamber which infuse wisdom attitude to the whose laws making process of the legislature. This is very character of the upper house has been incorporated. However, upper house is the comprehensively weaker position compared to the lower house, but Indian, unlike the House of Lords, is an appointed body and it is the considered Council of States. The federal state of India is boosted by the representative from the state. Thus, Rajya Sabha, unlike the House of Lords, carries the federal character. Rajya Sabha substantive power is given because Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, like on two sides of seesaw, and Rajya Sabha enjoy more power than the Lok Sabha. At some instance, Lok Sabha is more powerful than the Rajya Sabha. As we considered about the co-equal powers, first is the Constitutional Amendment Bill. They are co-equal power. Second is Article 64 rural local government, 65 urban local government. Rajiv Gandhi government pushed hard to like these bills, so there was the equal powers. Now we are talking about non-money bills are given there. National emergency, proclamation of the national emergency approved by the both the houses. Presidential rule can be approved by the both the houses. Even though my case was described about this, and it should be used as sparingly within the 2 months of declaration of president rule. So both the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha and the commission and committees and martial law court even both have equal power. Appointments even both have equal power in the UPSC, and delegated legislation even the equal powers. And 73rd and 74 constitutional amendment and 25 amendment also. So we can say sometimes Lok Sabha has the more powers than the Rajya Sabha. So when Lok Sabha has the more powers, this is the money bill. Okay, money bill, we can say the required the president assent. It's very important for that. It's 14-day decision delaying in the Rajya Sabha only. Once bill is passed by both the house, then it is president. On the assent of president, the bill is deemed to be passed by the parliament. Okay, so exceptional in the money bill, there were also some money bill were introduced in the parliament, played a subordinate role. So Dowry prohibition bill is the decision is favor of the Lok Sabha. Another example, banking service recruitment commission and council of minister is responsible to the Lok Sabha. So there are a number of reasons Rajya Sabha plays a subordinate role to the Lok Sabha. The reasons may be decisions are checked by a speaker who belongs to the lower house, and lower house has more than double the strength of Rajya Sabha. If we are discussing about the Rajya Sabha have the more power than Article 249, the list second 7 schedule, where Indian Union is empowered to make laws, and 2/3 majority is very much required for that. Article 312, All India Service, removal of president, okay, vice president. This is all about Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha is the house of states. This means representative of the state present their views and issues in the parliament. Okay, so state has two representative, ensure representative from the states in maintaining federal principle, true spirit. It's disproportionate representative in Rajya Sabha. So the representative is decided based on the population and size of the state. So we can say Rajya Sabha has been really powerful and major weakness of the Indian system also. Rajya Sabha has been bestowed with a substantive power to play and there have been many where Rajya Sabha and also Rajya Sabha has resulted into a certain phenomena and the party pocket borrows. So besides President of India can nominate 12 members in the Rajya Sabha who can eminent person in the field of arts, science, social science and literature. Pocket borough was a parliamentary constituency owned by one man who was known as the patron. So we can say that Rajya Sabha, according to Mr. Rao, is occupied by defeated politicians rather than eminent personality. Rajya Sabha doesn't reflect the interest of state and loyalty to the center. It has become an exercise of politics rather than exercise of issues. Rajya Sabha has hardly been responsible for initiating legislature law and bills and lack of wisdom law making business. Most of time Rajya Sabha obstruct bill in party lines only. Even many bills are passed without the consult of the Rajya Sabha. Meanwhile, there have been a number of instances where Rajya Sabha played a great role. We can say PAC should have represented by both the houses, like Public Account Committee represent the results to both the houses, and NC Chatterjee commented Rajya Sabha is expected to be House of Elders, but it working like a pack of urchins, poor and often mischievous. Okay, so we can say like both of the houses are very important for our Indian politics. Now, what is the parliamentary traditions? We are discussing about the parliamentary traditions. If we are golden phase, Nehru era was the golden phase in the parliamentary politics because it's a disciplined environment in that condition. Norms, regulation, everything was disciplined. Post Nehruvian era was the devoid of substantive debate and discussions because constructive debates was now declining and criminalization, money power, muscle power was the now the rebel houses was become everywhere, corruption and rampant practices of all that. So in the recent past the authority of parliament has been questioned. So opposition has installed the session of parliament. The parliamentary supremacy procedures standing committee are in public glare. The journalist remarked recently the current movement is against the price. So we can the statement has been made to signify present scenario of the country, especially in the terms of functioning of parliament. In order to understand the present scenario, effectiveness of parliament, one may consider function of the parliament and its performance also. So parliament has four major roles. First is to role making, second is to accountability, third is the financial functions and peoples. Okay, so institutional responsible for the formulating the budget, and it's like Parliament of India making adequate amount of law to cope with the dynamism, formulating the law on an average make 60 different laws. This number of laws not adequate, like the parliament proposed to introduce 34 laws. Okay, and like we can say debate, discussion on the environment, free and fairness, everything can be in parliament. Some of the reason parliament failed to make the laws in the proper manner. What are the reason that parliament not better to making the law? See, one is the parliament have the burdensome, like it's fear to losing the ticket, party politics, and a parliamentarian should discuss the various issue in public interest earnestly, but this not happening. Second, whip system, like whip system is in the government bring the stability, but whip system has been misused at the last time. Parliamentarian in both in important and non-important issue. Vice President of India recently remarked the democratic rights of Parliament. The whip should be used only in the case of life and death of government. Okay, and a paucity of time is also one matter where 17 bill approved only in 2 hours, 9 bill were approved only in 17 minutes. So this is the another issue. Third is, it is not mandatory for the parliament to refer the bill to the parliamentary standing committee, but the bill can go to such committee only when referred to the chairperson of the house. There is no law which prohibit the parliament to approve the bill while being discussed parliamentary standing committee. The recommendation of a standing committee are not binding in the nature. This is also the reason this is not so much effective. The amendment of prevention of corruption was approved, but this was not without being referred to the parliamentary standing committee. NIA Act was never referred to the parliamentary standing committee. Prevention of torture bill even not referred to the parliamentary committee. POTA was even not referred to this committee. So this was some limitations we are talking about. Now we can discuss there is conflict of interest between the PAC, Parliamentary Standing Committee, Health Parliamentary Committee, and every committees want their special interest, like Lokpal. Lokpal bill was many time was like discussed, and very conflict in that bill also. Now Manrega, Food Security Act, NAC, Private Member Bill. Okay, so this bill are also in a problematic situation. Delhi Rent Control Act, Delhi Public Service Act, this was some Benami Transaction Prohibition Act. These kind of bills was not passed due time. So that was parliament is always in a conflicting situation. Okay, appellates fund, even they are not using appropriate manner. Tax appellate tribunal is there, but they are not working according to their conditions. So this is some reasons why parliament is criticized in many times. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the judiciary. See, judiciary is the one of the world's oldest legal system. Modern India judiciary is the partly continuation of British legal system, and it's a hybrid legal system in which custom, precedent, and legislative law have been validity of the law, but like it operate at various levels. Okay, like powers depending on the jurisdiction, and at the top its apex court is Supreme Court. Then there is the 24 high courts, like its number changes, and company law board, custom law tribunals, restrictive trade commissions, many tribunals also there. Okay, but judicial review, what is the judicial review? See, if in British parliamentary system the parliament is the supreme, whereas in the Indian parliamentary system constitutional is the paramount and supreme. So parliament works in the defined boundary of constitution in India. So doctrine of legislative competence is given in the India, and judicial review is the doctrine of legislative competence. That's why Article 13(2) of Indian Constitution, which are inconsistent to the part second Constitution, shall be declared null and void. So, Article 13(2) provides for the protection of the fundamental right of citizen. Therefore, the Parliament and the state legislature are clearly prohibited from the making the law. Okay. So, fundamental rights guaranteed to the citizens, and Supreme Court upheld that Parliament power to amend any part of the Constitution include the fundamental rights. Golaknath case versus State of Punjab, 11 judge bench also talked about the doctrine of basic structure of the Constitution. Shankari Prasad case, Sajjan Singh of Rajasthan case was talked about the basic structure, and Golaknath verdict, the Parliament introduced law for the greater access to the bank credit for the agriculture sector, ensure equitable distribution of the wealth. Privy purse, which was promised The Parliament is implementing the directive of principal policies according to judicial supremacy, judicial review. So this is the some points where we can talk about the judicial review. So now dealing with the fundamental rights, dealing with the constitution. Okay, it's Keshwanan Bharti case 1973 phrased basic structure, which is introduced for the MK Namibar and other council. Golaknath case surfaced the verdict of Supreme Court in Keshwanan Bharti case. Even 24 constitutional amendment bill also talked about the basic structure. Okay, and the bench did not define the basic structure. Nevertheless, the sovereignty, democratic, secular character of the polity, rule of law, independent of judiciary, fundamental rights, some of the essential feature of the constitution. In some, constitutional amendments are now subject to judicial review and transgress the basic structure. So, in the Indian judicial system followed a doctrine of procedure established by the law. This means that the law that is duly enhanced by legislature, due process of law is given there. Okay, so due process of law, that is a law enacted, is declared valid. The law must satisfy the criteria of liberal democracy also. Okay, so judicial activism. What do you think about the judicial activism? See, judicial activism is like judiciary should be more argumentative in nature. Like our government is more argumentative and cacophonous in nature. That's why judiciary should uphold the letter of spirit of constitution. Judicial reach have given root to basic fundamental aspect of democracy, liberty, equality, human dignity. And the paralysis in legislature, the law-making body, has led to Indian court taking the initiative to provide common man even these basic amenities like water, electricity, shelter. This everyone requires. So judicial overreach and has at time led to the face off between the legislature and judiciary. So judicial activism is a result of legislature lethargy and deep abiding distrust of politics. So thoughts to be fact, like we can talk about the genesis of judicial activism is Golaknath case, Keshwanan Bharti case, where judicial activism was the fillip of the emergence. And now we can discuss about more case like Rudolph and Suzanne Rudolph case in pursuit of Lakshmi, political economic of Indian state. That there was also awareness about the judiciary. Now P.N. Bhagwati and Krishna Iyer was first justice who talked about the social activism and litigations also to take the suo moto cases by the judiciary. In 1980 and 1990, the government was busy fighting the compulsion of coalition politics. The judiciary therefore infringed into the legislature sphere. Meanwhile, common people high regards and respect for the judicial system also. Okay, so this was the, now we are discussing about the public interest litigation. See, public interest litigation is a strategic arm of the legal aid intending to bring justice within the reach of poor and destitute masses. It was the P.N. Bhagwati, chief architect of the development of public interest litigation, is intended to promote public interest, tool to redress violation of constitution and legal rights. So to create a sense of responsibility, to minimize the abuse of power, to hold the authoritarian accountable, to bring distributive justice, to give the justice to poor and ignorant people's right and redress the wrongs against them, to remedy the wrong to the public at large. And there was a Bihar binding case, flesh trade, protective home to Agra, injustice done in children in jails, protection of pavement of slum dwellers in Bombay, protection of environment, ecology. So this all was the PIL was filed. Okay, now judicial activism we were talking about before. So judicial activism is the overreaching and overarching in the space of executive or republic founder are partly to be blamed over judicial activism. They established a constitutional framework, judiciary with wide jurisdiction, extraordinary power. Important cases where the judiciary here overarched: Golaknath case, Indian jail Hawala case, CBI from functioning information, PV Narasimha Rao, Nandi Gram issue, Vishakha case, 2G scheme, black money, Salva Judum. These are some case. Okay, so SP Sathe came out with work Judicial Activism. What is judicial activism? It's interpretation of trust, and it is the innovate, create maxims so as to ensure values in the constitution: liberty, equality, justice of the government. Role of judiciary to innovate the ideas, instrumental action with judicial execution and judicial law making so as to fill the vacuum of executive and legislature. So we can say like PB Sawant observed the judicial activism is a double-edged sword, and however the judicial innovate the comes with the new maxim to render justice to the weak and marginalized people. Okay, so need for the balance of duties, powers, legislative, executive, and judiciary. This is possible with the judicial activism. Now discussing about judicial reforms. See, judicial reforms is quite as long, like number of schemes and corruptions are there unearthed. So a number of commission including law commission committee urged for judicial reforms. So what are the judicial reforms are there? See, Harshad Mehta case was there. We know about that, and we can talk about the justice harassed is justice buried. Okay, justice denied, delayed is justice denied. So this is kind of we want to reform in our justice system. So Indian judiciary is the arrears of the backlogs in the cases in our judicial system. So we should remove this backlogs in the court system. So Law Commission and Malimat Committee, Criminal Justice System have made a number of similar recommendation for this. Okay, so number of days, so the judges, High Court, the court remained closed for a long durations. Even during the COVID crisis, we can see judge used to attend conference, took up study and hone their skills. Malimat Committee recommended 20 days of vacation for developing, enhancing the skills. And the Indian judiciary has not proactively adopted system of compromise of cases. Okay, so lack of alternative dispute resolution system in the government, backlogs of cases to tackle the cases, and lack of mediation, reconciliation, and innovation in the cases was another reason we have the problem. So we can even reform in the judiciary with the alternative court system, Lok Adalat, Gram Nyayalaya, to reduce the backlogs of the cases. Malimat Committee recommended the fixed number of adjournment. Okay, so lack of adequate infrastructure in the judiciary, ICT and e-courts. And we have the old age of the laws like CRPC, Indian Penal Code, CVC. So we should have to improve this system also. Then we can improve our judicial system. Soumitra Sen case in Kolkata, Justice Dinakaran case, Justice Soumitra Mukherjee case in Delhi High Court, Balakrishnan case was there. Okay. So National Mission for Justice Delivery and Legal Reform was in 2011. All India Justice Service, known as the National Mission for Justice Delivery, establishment of the All Indian Judicial Service, is operationalized number of plan to ensure expedition and quality justice. Okay. So objective of the national mission for the focus on improvement in administrative justice system is to increasing access by reducing the delays and errors, enhancing the accountability and structure of the performance of the justice. And the national mission would advisory council, governing council, national mission leader and mission directorate. The advisory council will advise on the goals, objective, a national mission objective, and would be chaired by Ministry for the Law and Justice. Okay, so governing council would facilitate implementation, give policy directions, and mission, and would be headed by Ministry for Law and Justice. So what we required in reforms in judicial system we discussed here. So now we has go with Judicial Council Reform and Disability Act, also 1980 was passed. Malimat Committee, as we discussed before, for the better grievance judicial system in the Indian judicial system, Judicial Standards and Accountability Bill, making deal with the complaints against judges in High Court and Supreme Court. And Prime Minister should make a committee on Article 124(4), but majority required for the removal of a special majority. Like judges are removed in the judicial system with a special majority. So this is should be like a violation of the constitution, we can say. So therefore the judges of higher court have become untouchables. In short, the judges of lower court have accountability but no independence, and the judges of higher court have no accountability but the independence. So article 1 to 4 and 4 is also very important, like when judges removed, there should be a proved misbehavior, misconduct, and imprisonment will be on the basis of that, like Justice Ramaswamy, Justice Dinakaran case was there. Okay. Now judicial standard accountability bill was passed before that. This bill was to make the standards for the judges and accountable. They should be accountable. So judges of the High Court and Supreme Court to declare their assets and liability, including those of their spouses and dependent. So Judges Inquiry Act was there, including the Chief Justice of India and Chief Justice of High Court. So legal mechanism for the dealing with complaints of judges, the restatement of values of judicial life. The 5-member committee with headed retired Chief Justice of India appointed the President, serving Judge of Supreme Court as serving High Court of Judge, both nominated by the Chief Justice of India, Attorney General, and an eminent person nominated by the President. So this is the Judicial Standard and Accountability Bill. Okay. Now, what we want in judicial system, that's very important to be talked about. So now we are going to discuss about the intergovernmental relationships. See, intergovernmental relationships are like Development Council, Planning Commission, Election Commission, University Grants Commission, Interstate Tribunal, Interstate Council, Zonal Council, Advisory Council, AICTE, CABE, Drug Advisory Council, Chief Secretariat, DIG, CM, ensure better relationship among them all. This is the intergovernmental relationship, like Cabinet Committee, Prime Minister Office. Okay, what is the cabinet? What is the cabinet? See, cabinet is like PM, and there is many ministers, and one cabinet secretariat. So this is all about the cabinet secretariat. Cabinet secretariat is responsible for the administration of the Government of India under the Transaction of Business Rule 1961 and Government of India. So smooth transaction of business in Ministry, Department of Government for ensuring adherence to the rules, interministerial coordination, and amongst minister department involving through the instrumentalities. So the name secretariat has been origin of British administration, and India followed the same nomenclature. Okay, the Prime Minister is the head of the cabinet. The cabinet secretary who is head of the cabinet secretariat. So Prime Minister is delivering the duties and responsibility as a head of cabinet, and PMO provides the secretariat assistance to the PM, and his duty is not a head of the cabinet. It is the headed by principal secretary to the PM. So principal secretary to the headed by the PM is to the it's PMO. Okay, and like there are numerous agencies, line and staff agencies. Cabinet Secretariat is a staff agency of the PMs, because Secretariat is the cabinet secretary who is also ex officio chairman of the Civil Service Board. To understand the role of Cabinet Secretariat, one may first understand the cabinet. It is a small body within the Council of Ministers. It is legacy of the British administration. It is a collective decision making body. 35 cabinet ministers, the most senior government ministers, represent the decision makings and executive functions they taken here. Cabinet was never mentioned in Indian constitution, but 44 constitutional amendment inserted in term of cabinet, which is apex policy making body. Whatever policy the cabinet decision becomes final policy of the government made by the cabinet, is the apex decision making body. Okay, so it's established the coordination. The administration in India is managed through the government. If there is among the ministries, it is resolved through the cabinet. The cabinet is the apex body of the crisis management. Cabinet has a number of important functions like effective government. It's require access to huge number of data, information, role in carried out by the Cabinet Secretariat. Cabinet Secretariat is responsible for the administration of the Government of India, transaction business rule, business in ministry department of the government, ensuring adherence to this rule, interministerial coordination, and evolving the consistent instrumentality of the standing committee. So the Cabinet Secretariat ensure like monthly summary to the activities, management of major crisis situation, coordination And one of the function is what, convening the meeting of the cabinet on the order of prime minister, preparation of circulation agenda, circulation paper related to the cases of agenda, preparing the records discussions, circulating to the records discussions, watching implementation of the decisions. And it helps to promotion of interministerial coordination, like removing the difficulty, removing the differences, overcoming the delays, coordinating in the administrative actions, coordinating the policies. So a ministry is responsible for acting on its own for expedition implementation of the government policy, plan and program. So the interministerial problem dealt by the committee of secretariat, and committee are constituted by the minister meeting held under chairmanship of cabinet secretary. Okay, it's supporting interministerial actions also. Departments are also reviewed by the cabinet secretariat, and it's providing circulating the whole departments, the programs and agendas, and monitoring, coordinating, promoting new policies. Okay, so it's also head of the civil service board. Transaction of business rule also required to take up according to the cabinet secretariat. What is the function of the cabinet secretary? Is position of the cabinet secretariat. See, he is the senior most. He is the senior most civil servant officer. So he is the like order of president above the chief of staff, equivalent to the other service holding the rank of full general, and equivalent to that attorney general and lieutenant governor with their territory. The cabinet secretary is the ex officio head of civil service board. Okay, and cabinet secretariat is the Indian administrative service and head of the civil service under rules of business of government of India. He is the represent every cabinet meeting. He is the under the direct charge of PM. He is most proximate PM of India. Whenever there is a conflict between the secretariat and minister, he resolved the conflict. Okay, so this is the work of cabinet. Now discussing about the PMO. So PMO is popularly known as the PMO, politically headed by the Prime Minister and administratively headed by the Prime Minister Secretary, Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister. So it is the administrative establishment responsible for the assisting the PM and responsibility as head of the cabinet. Okay, so in under article power and business rule it informed. So what is the work of PMO? It's a like he is the head of the cabinet, PM, and as a number of portfolio which are level vacant due to unavoidable circumstances such as demise of the minister, or portfolio maybe simply is life vacant. So this is the work. The prime minister act as a liaising officer. Some of the ministry may time to time require attention of the PM. Conflict may arise among the various ministries, so PMO responsible for the resolving the conflict. PM, apart from the being executive head in the political leader, has political career to be managed, and PM is also the head of government and face the government, therefore has undertaken a number of responsibilities which are he do this responsibility with the help of PM. So PMO is the PM secretariat was a very small office. Okay, Nehru wanted a PM secretariat to be remain very small, but in Indira Gandhi reign that was like quite Nehru could afford manage secretarial function with small PM secretariat, as he was well assisted by the foreign minister. Now Lal Bahadur Shastri was a LK Jha in that time as a principal secretary of the Lal Bahadur Shastri, and PN Haskar replaced the LK Jha principal secretary in the Indira Gandhi time, and Principal Secretary PN Haskar fashioned Indira Gandhi decision about the timing level for support given the Bangladeshi freedom. Okay, now the era of like PM Secretariat under leadership of Principal Secretary, the Cabinet Secretary was reduced nominal office, and PM Secretariat earned a dubious name like Emergency Era. Okay, under the government of like Morarji Desai government, the PM Secretariat role was reduced. Okay. Now, Rajiv Gandhi came to be power after assassination of Indira Gandhi. PC Alexander briefly served Rajiv Gandhi, but the latter was not very comfortable, and his style and replaced. So the power again skewed in favor of Principal Secretary. But in a Prime Ministerial Secretariat renamed the Prime Minister office in during the Morarji Desai and Janta government in 1977. So name change, and C. Alexander was the principal secretary at that time also. and Manmohan Singh was the least powerful in the cabinet. So therefore, the cabinet secretary has become quite powerful. So PMO's role was decreased. Now we are discussing about the Secretariat and the Directorate. Secretariat and the Directorate. See, British administrative followed a split system. So, and the British legacy was carried forward to the independent India. The idea of split system was based on polity administration dichotomy. So, in other words, the secretariat is responsible for taking decisions and policies, and the secretariat is manned by generalist, where the director is manned by specialist. The director is the implementing agency responsible for the personal management in the field level. So, what are the conflict of interest between the director and secretariat? See, this is the line and staff relationship. So there should be a better coordination and cooperation between the secretariat and directorate to implementing the policy and program, because there is envy, jealousy, mutual antipathy, competition, and hostile reality. To the pay, privileges, and promotion of secretariat official and much better off when compared to the directorate. Because of failure implementing the tenure system, secretariat officer remain in the secretariat and director office remain in the field. Therefore, there is no mutual understanding between the two officials, and psychological stereotyping is there. Like director do the work, official in the secretariat are idealistic, utopian. On the contrary, the official is sitting in the secretariat precise the official are the field as lackadaisical and casual and lazy. So it is need of the however the relation between the secretariat and director should be improved. The tenurial system should be implemented at the earliest possible. The pay, privileges, and promotion should be at par for both. The official should rather adopt position classification rather than rank in man classification. So, what is the ministry and department? The ministry is a specialized organization responsible for the sector of government public administration led by minister that can have responsibility of the one of more department, agency, bureau, commission, or other. Okay, ministry are usually subordinate to the cabinet. The prime minister, a government, will usually have numerous ministries specialized field providing the public service. National ministry vary greatly between the country. Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health is some ministries. Department is the primary unit of ministry, because Ministry of Human Resource Development divided into department, including the Department of School Education and Literacy, Department of Higher Education, which minister is the political head of ministry, the secretary to the Government of India. Okay, attached office are staff agency attached to the ministry to provide the assistance, especially technical assistance, and these are the permanent office which meant by permanently appointed office who are specialized. So the directorate also provide technical assistance. The attached office are different from directorate. The directorate provide a technical assistance which is usually mean for the formulating the policies, and technical assistant which is mean for the implementing the policies. So there is no homogeneity in the nomenclature and size of attached office. The rank of head of attached office also varies from ministry to ministry. A ministry may have one of the attached office also. So this is all about the